A famous journalist laughed at Muhammad Ali on live television, mocking his beliefs and calling him a draft dodger. The studio audience applauded her, but then the cameras caught something nobody expected: tears streaming down her face. What Ali said next changed her life forever, and the footage was buried for 40 years. It was March 1971. Muhammad Ali had just lost his heavyweight title to Joe Frazier in the fight of the century. He'd been fighting in court for 4 years to avoid going to Vietnam, and the public was divided. Half the country saw him as a hero standing up for his beliefs. The other half saw him as a coward who wouldn't serve his country. Ali was scheduled to appear on a late-night talk show hosted by Dick Cavett, but the producers had a surprise planned. They'd invited Barbara Morrison, a well-known conservative journalist who'd written multiple columns calling Ali a traitor, a coward, and a disgrace to boxing. The plan was simple: create controversy, get ratings, let Morrison tear into Ali on live television while he defended himself. Good TV, conflict, drama. What they didn't plan for was what actually happened. Ali arrived at the studio knowing he was walking into an ambush. His team had warned him. "They've got someone there to attack you," Angelo Dundee told him in the car. "Someone who's written terrible things about you." "Who is it?" Ali asked. "Barbara Morrison, the columnist." Ali was quiet for a moment. He knew her work. She'd called him Muhammad the Coward in print. She'd written that his refusal to go to Vietnam was the most un-American act by any athlete in history. She'd suggested he should be stripped of his citizenship. "Good," Ali finally said. "I want to meet her." Dundee was confused. "You want to meet someone who hates you?" "She doesn't hate me. She hates what she thinks I represent. There's a difference." The green room before the show was tense. Morrison arrived in a tailored suit, her hair perfect, her makeup flawless. She looked every bit the successful journalist, confident, polished, ready for battle. Ali was sitting in a corner, reading a newspaper. When Morrison walked in, he looked up and smiled. "Miss Morrison," he said, standing, "I've read your work." Morrison was caught off guard. She'd expected anger, maybe hostility. Instead, Ali was cordial, almost warm. "I've written some tough things about you," she said, her voice defensive. "I know, that's why I wanted to meet you. I figure if someone writes that much about me, they must be thinking about me a lot. And if they're thinking about me that much, maybe there's something I should understand about what they're thinking." Morrison didn't know how to respond to that. She'd come prepared for a fight, and Ali was offering conversation. Dick Cavett introduced them both. The studio audience, about 200 people, applauded politely for Ali and gave Morrison a standing ovation. The cultural divide was clear. This audience was conservative, patriotic, and they saw Morrison as their champion against Ali's anti-war stance. Cavett set up the confrontation immediately. "Miss Morrison, you've been very critical of Mr. Ali's refusal to serve in Vietnam. Would you like to explain your position?" Morrison didn't hesitate. "It's simple, Dick. Every American man has a duty to serve his country when called upon. Mr. Ali, or Cassius Clay as I prefer to call him, refused that duty. He hid behind his religion, claimed conscientious objector status, and avoided serving while other young men died in his place." The audience applauded. Ali sat quietly, listening. "He's had every advantage America can offer," Morrison continued. "He became wealthy, famous, beloved, and when his country needed him, he turned his back. He's a coward, he's a draft dodger, and frankly, he's a disgrace to everything boxing stands for." The applause was louder this time. Morrison was confident now, feeding off the crowd's energy. She turned to Ali directly. "What do you have to say for yourself, Cassius?" Ali looked at her calmly. "My name is Muhammad Ali, and I'd like to ask you a question, if that's okay." Morrison nodded, smiling. She thought she'd already won. "Have you ever been to war?" Ali asked. Morrison's smile faltered. "No, I'm a woman. I wasn't eligible for the draft." "Right," Ali said. "So you've never had to make the choice I made.
You've never stood in a draft office and been told, "We're going to send you to kill people you've never met in a country you can't find on a map for reasons you don't understand, have you?" No, but so how can you call me a coward when you've never faced what I faced? The audience went quiet. Morrison's confidence wavered. I'm speaking for the men who did serve, the men who made the sacrifice you refused to make.
Ali leaned forward. His voice was still calm, but there was an intensity in his eyes that made everyone in the studio lean forward too. "Miss Morrison, I want to tell you something, and I want you to really hear it. Can you do that?" Morrison nodded, suddenly uncertain. "I'm not against soldiers," Ali said. "I'm not against men who went to Vietnam. A lot of my friends went. Some of them died. Some of them came back different. I respect their choice, but that was their choice. I had to make my own choice." "But you chose wrong," Morrison insisted, though her voice was quieter now. "Did I?" Ali asked. "I chose to stand up for what I believe in, even though it cost me everything. They took my title. They took my license. They took away 3.5 years of my career, the best years. They threatened to put me in prison. I lost millions of dollars. My own country turned against me." He paused, letting that sink in. "But I didn't lose myself," Ali continued. "I didn't become someone I'm not. I didn't betray what I believe just because it was easier. And you know what, Miss Morrison? That took more courage than anything I've ever done in a boxing ring." The audience was completely silent now. Morrison was staring at Ali, and something in her expression had changed. "I'm against the war," Ali said, "not against soldiers. I'm against sending young men to die in a war that we have no business fighting. I'm against racism, both here and over there. I'm against using my fame to make other young black men think they should go die for a country that won't even let them vote in some places." Morrison opened her mouth to respond, but Ali wasn't finished. "You called me un-American, but I think the most American thing you can do is stand up for what you believe in, even when everybody else is telling you you're wrong. That's what this country was founded on, people who refused to do what their government told them because they believed something different." Tears were forming in Morrison's eyes now. The cameras caught it, her carefully constructed composure beginning to crack. "Miss Morrison," Ali said, his voice softer now, "I don't think you're a bad person. I think you're scared. A lot of people are scared right now. The world is changing fast. Everything we thought we knew is being questioned. And when people are scared, they look for someone to blame. Right now, some people are blaming me." Morrison was openly crying now, trying to hold it back, but failing. The audience was frozen, not knowing how to react. "But I want you to know something," Ali said. "I forgive you for the things you wrote about me, because I understand why you wrote them. You were trying to hold on to something, some idea of what America should be, what patriotism means, what duty looks like. And I respect that. I really do." He reached over and took her hand. Morrison didn't pull away. "But Miss Morrison, there's more than one way to love your country, and there's more than one kind of courage. I chose my way. I'm willing to face the consequences. Are you willing to consider that maybe, just maybe, there are some truths you haven't seen yet?" Morrison couldn't speak. She was crying too hard. Dick Cavett, sensing the moment had gone far beyond typical talk show territory, called for a commercial break.
The cameras stopped rolling, but several crew members later described what happened during those 3 minutes. Morrison stood up, still crying. Ali stood too. And then she did something nobody expected. She hugged him. "I'm so sorry," she said into his shoulder. "I'm so sorry for the things I wrote." "It's okay," Ali said, holding her. "You didn't know me. You just knew what people told you about me." "I was wrong," Morrison said, pulling back to look at him, "about everything, about you, about the war, about what courage means." The crew was scrambling, trying to figure out what to do. They'd planned for conflict, not reconciliation. They'd prepared for a fight, not a breakthrough. When they came back from commercial, Morrison's makeup was hastily retouched, but her eyes were still red. Cavett, to his credit, acknowledged what had happened. "We just witnessed something extraordinary during the break," Cavett said. "Miss Morrison, would you like to say anything?" Morrison nodded. She turned to Ali, then to the camera. "I came here tonight prepared to tear down Muhammad Ali. I came here believing he was everything wrong with America right now. But in 5 minutes, he showed me more grace, more courage, and more wisdom than I've shown in years of writing about him." The audience was silent, unsure how to respond. This wasn't the show they'd expected. "I was wrong," Morrison continued, her voice cracking, "about Muhammad, about the war, about what it means to stand up for your beliefs. And She paused, composing herself. "I owe him an apology, and I owe my readers an apology for the poison I've been spreading." Ali reached over and squeezed her hand. "You don't owe me anything," he said. "You just taught everyone watching something important. It's never too late to change your mind when you learn the truth." The show aired live, but when the network tried to replay it, the footage disappeared. For 40 years, only a few people remembered what had happened that night. The network, embarrassed by how their planned controversy had turned into a moment of genuine human connection, buried the tape. Barbara Morrison's life changed completely after that interview. She resigned from her column 2 weeks later. In her final piece, she wrote, "I have spent my career claiming to stand for truth, but I was just standing for my own prejudices. Muhammad Ali taught me the difference." She became one of the earliest journalists to write critically about the Vietnam War. She marched in anti-war protests. She wrote a book called Converted by Courage: How Muhammad Ali Changed My Mind, though it was published by a small press and largely ignored. Morrison and Ali stayed in touch for years. She attended several of his fights. When Ali was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 1984, Morrison was one of the first people to visit him. In 2011, 40 years after that infamous interview, a film archivist discovered the footage in a storage facility. The network had labeled it Cavett Ali Disaster, Do Not Air, and filed it away. When the footage was finally released online, it went viral. Millions of people watched Barbara Morrison's transformation from hostile critic to tearful convert, all in the span of one commercial break. People who'd been at the taping started coming forward with their memories. "I was in the audience that night," one woman wrote on YouTube. "I came ready to cheer Morrison and boo Ali. I left questioning everything I believed." That's what seeing someone practice genuine grace does. It forces you to confront your own lack of it. A crew member who'd worked the show wrote, "In 30 years of television production, I never saw anything like what happened that night. Ali didn't just defend himself, he defended the humanity of the person attacking him. That's not normal. That's extraordinary." The footage of that interview is now studied in journalism schools as an example of how preconceptions can blind us to truth. It's shown in conflict resolution courses as a masterclass in meeting hostility with grace. It's used in civil rights education to demonstrate the power of forgiveness. But the most powerful lesson has nothing to do with journalism or conflict resolution or civil rights. It's simpler than that. Muhammad Ali could have destroyed Barbara Morrison that night. He was quick-witted, sharp-tongued, and had every reason to humiliate her on live television. She'd called him a coward, a traitor, un-American. She'd tried to destroy his reputation in print. Instead, he chose compassion. He chose to see her fear instead of her hate. He chose to offer understanding instead of revenge. And in doing so, he changed her life. That's the real power of grace. It doesn't just defend against attacks, it transforms the attackers.
When Muhammad Ali died in 2016, Barbara Morrison was at his memorial service. She was 84 years old, using a walker, barely able to stand, but she stood. And when they asked for people to share memories, she raised her hand. "In 1971, I was convinced I knew everything," she said, her voice shaky but clear. "I knew Muhammad Ali was wrong. I knew the war was right. I knew patriotism meant following orders without question. And then, in one night, Muhammad showed me that I didn't know anything at all." She paused, wiping tears from her eyes. "He didn't educate me. He didn't argue me into submission. He simply showed me grace when I deserved condemnation. And that grace opened my eyes to everything I'd been too blind to see." Morrison looked at Ali's casket. "Thank you, Muhammad, for not giving me what I deserved that night. Thank you for giving me what I needed instead. You changed my life, and through me, you changed hundreds of other lives, every person who read my work after that night and learned what I learned." She sat down, crying, and the entire room gave her a standing ovation. Not because she'd been right, but because she'd had the courage to admit she'd been wrong. That's what that buried footage teaches us. The bravest thing Muhammad Ali did wasn't refuse the draft. It wasn't win the heavyweight championship. It wasn't even fight Joe Frazier for 15 brutal rounds. The bravest thing Muhammad Ali did was show grace to Barbara Morrison when he could have destroyed her instead. If this story moves you, remember, the world doesn't need more people who are right. It needs more people who are gracious. It needs more people who can see the fear behind the hate, the pain behind the anger, the humanity behind the attack. Muhammad Ali wasn't great because he never lost. He was great because even when someone tried to hurt him, he chose to help them instead. That's not just boxing. That's not just activism. That's transcendence. And somewhere on old videotape in an archive, there's proof of the moment a notorious woman mocked Muhammad Ali on live television, and the cameras caught him responding with such grace that she couldn't help but change.